first sport that came out of the pandemic. So, and that's when I
Yeah.
kind of got started in content creation. So I absolutely love talking fantasy golf and gambling on golf, and I just love golf. Period. I wish I had more time to play more golf.
Well, I just thought it was a good thing to dive into because I mean things are kind of could have been crazy here. I mean, I got a phone call this past kind of Saturday from a buddy of mine saying, "Hey, we're going to the country club. Do you actually want to play?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? Want to play? It's February." But lo and behold, it was 55 degrees out, and I mean, I didn't get a chance to play, but I did get a chance to hit some balls like at the drive range, and then boom, we got dumped with another 4 inches of snow like the following kind of day. And then we're recording here on a Friday. It's almost like the same thing that took place here. Yesterday was awesome. 55 is kind of like degrees, and then only to be back into the Arctic Circle this afternoon or today. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit of golf here, just because hey, you know what? I mean, looking forward to the spring is something that I always kind of look forward to. You're getting like these spotty kind of days and where maybe you can kind of get out and where you can't get out here. I was going to spend some time kind of running an NBA All-Star game kind of tournament on Statement Games, but I think between that and the NHL and the Pro Bowl, it's still kind of up in the air and where hey, if the guys playing in the skills competition don't play in the game, the people who are playing in the game here, you're not even sure if they're playing or not. So it's just like hey, you know what? In order to fill out a show, let's talk a little golf. So I mean, obviously you're following a lot of different kind of things here. I thought the start to the 2020 PGA golf season, starting out in Hawaii, it's just kind of going to be fascinating. You've had five. This is the sixth tournament or the fifth tournament. Actually, this is this
Well,
the
I mean,
sixth
since
one,
the
right?
calendar year, I mean, technically the season starts
Correct. I'm just
early in
talking like
fall swing.
calendar year
Yeah,
2020.
2022. I mean, it started with the Tournament of Champions. It was the second week in January. So I think this is the seventh event this year in
All
this
right. So
calendar year.
all right. So there's been 6 completed events.
Yes.
And freaking 3 of them have gone to a playoff. So half the tournaments that have actually been completed have actually gone to a playoff. Sony Open, you had Matsuyama over Henley in the first hole of the playoff. Later in the month, during the Farmers Insurance Tournament in California, List over again a first hole playoff kind of victory. And then last week you had that 3-hole playoff between Scheffler and Cantley. So it's almost like half of the freaking things that have been taking place here have gone to playoffs. I thought just from a an overall entertainment kind of perspective, the quality of the golf has been fascinating. That's one tournament last week that I've officially added to my bucket list. At some point, I gotta make my way to Phoenix during kind of like Super Bowl week, and just be a spectator on that 16th hole. Overall take. I mean, you're covering golf every week. You're talking a lot of different things here. Anything that's sticking out to you?
I mean, I've been talking about it for over a year now about how golf is in such crazy spot right now. I mean, we're all a little bit older. I mean, we all remember the Tiger era. I mean, it was just so dominant. You're not going to have a golfer like Tiger Woods ever dominate the sport of golf because there's so many great, young, talented players. I mean, you look at it, John Rahm, people think he's an old guy. He's only 27 years old. He's the number one golfer in the world. And he's hands down the best golfer on tour right now. He's only got 6 wins in his career. He's only won one major. It's because of how talented the sport is. And, that's what's so exciting about it. You say there have been 3 playoffs already, and as a guy that bets, I mean, I bet Luke List outright to win the Farmers Insurance. I was sweating that one right down to the wire in the playoffs. I bet Scotty Scheffler to win last week. I was sweating for a gambler. It sucks, because it just gets your, juices flowing so much there. It could go any way. But I mean, it's insane. You're not going to see guys go on runs and win 3 or 4 majors, in a 2-year span. You're not going to see guys win 6 events in a season. It's just that's how excellent golf is and how high level so many people are playing the game of golf right now.
I mean, with that said here, although you're covering it, you're watching it, and I believe we actually covered, maybe we touched this the last time that we actually, do you play as well?
I mean, I try to play.
Okay.
Some years more than others, depends on the pizza shop, how staffed I am. But I do love to play the game of golf, and it's such a fantastic sport to play.
Cool. So look, you've been in these things kind of before here, where we run weekly kind of golf tournaments on StatementGames.com.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I mean, well, I guess tournaments start on every kind of Thursday. So I think kind of for this segment, we want to try something like a little bit new. I want to kind of show up I want to pull up some of the selections that I personally made in last week's kind of tournament, and just kind of walk you through what I'm thinking about, because I use the free to play Statement Games game PGA kind of tour to do my basic research, make some kind of free picks, and then as I think the tournament through, I leverage my picks to eventually what I'm going to be betting in the weekend.
Mhm.
So, look, I respect your opinion, like on golf. You do like a lot of great work here. I mean, your Eagles and Sixers stuff, I'm not too sure about.
Oh,
But
here we
golf,
go.
golf,
All
golf
right,
stuff,
all right.
golf stuff is all
Just
right. So
because I called your Giants out the other morning,
you did.
you got to call my Eagles out. I say
Hey, this is how it works here. I mean, busting
exactly.
chops is part of the content game. This is what I do. This is what you do. Nathan's getting a lot better at this stuff over here. I think
Right.
my influence has been, doing great with him. And let's be honest, Nathan is basically a Nazi. He doesn't like golf. So I was like, you know what? Well, to hell with you. And it was just a weird week. I mean, again, no real basketball kind of this week. So from a gaming perspective, it's just a little bit of a different week. But hey, you're post NFL, so that's kind of where we're at.
Hey,
So,
I won the NBA contest that I was in on Statement Games last night. I
yes, you
finished in
have.
first place,
Yes,
so,
you have. So this is kind of what I'm thinking, right? Now, I love Tony Finau,
Mhm.
but I'm always kind of looking for value. And from my kind of perspective, Finau is off.
Mhm.
So missed the cut a couple weeks ago, or in Phoenix, missed the cut. He had a rope the other day, opening round of 69, and heading into today. I mean, we're recording around 2:00, so I'm not sure what's going on kind of
He
right now.
hasn't gone off yet today.
Okay, all right. So he's tied for kind of 22nd. But if you take a look at his round yesterday, only hit 9 of 18 greens in regulation. He did have to sink a 14-foot birdie. He wound up birdieing 3 holes on the back 9 to get to 2 over. Was 1 over kind of on the front 9. So I thought, Leishman's kind of playing well. Top 20 finish in the Farmers Insurance Open tournament a couple of weeks ago. Wind up, I think, tied for 16th. So I think just for this week and this week only, I think there's like a good kind of value in kind of selecting Leishman over Finau. Your thoughts? Good, bad, indifferent? Hey, you know what?
I
You're
disagree with it.
overanalyzing this thing.
I mean, Finau was one of the first bets I made to outright win the tournament. So when you're betting golf or gambling on golf or fantasy golf, whether it's Statement Games or the other sites, every tournament is different in the sense where some tournaments you're looking at recency form, some tournaments you're looking at course history, and the people that do well on the course. And while Leishman has had decent course history here, Tony Finau is one of the best players to play Riviera. He's got 2 of the last 4 years he's finished in second place. And I don't know how much you know about the shots gained total stats and all the different shot gain categories. On this course in the last 4 years, he's third compared to the field in shots gained total at 31.
So the recent form doesn't scare you.
He's gained 31.43 strokes compared to the rest of the field this week. So Tony Finau, for me, I don't care. This is the kind of course that changes his trajectory. And I'll give you a quick 30-second story here on Tony Finau.
Sure.
I used to make fun of him. I used to call him 5th place Finau because he can never win an event. I bet Max Homa to win this event last year, and he won the event.
Yeah.
And I had a bet, and I had my FanDuel app open, the sportsbook app open, and Max Homa hit his first hole on the first playoff hole, hit his tee shot behind a tree. I hit the cash out on my bet. I took 12-1 on my money instead of the 40-1 on my money. And then Tony Finau completely screwed me by being even worse, and Max Homa won. So I still picked the outright winner, but I lost money because Tony Finau always costs me money, and he always makes me lose money. But all that aside, this course is custom geared to Tony Finau. Now, I know he's only 2 under. Everybody said this was going to not be a birdie fest, a 12, 13 under kind of course. And obviously, Joakim Niemann is like running away with this event so far. But Tony Finau is still a guy that I feel will finish in the top 10, top 12 by the time the weekend's out.
Okay, so you completely disagree with my top pick.
Completely
That's
disagree
awesome.
with it. Yeah, I mean, and Mark Leishman. I'm not trying to say anything negative
No,
about Mark
no, no.
Leishman.
Well,
Mark
I'll get to that
Leishman's a
kind of
good
in a
player.
second
He's
because
got. I
the
think he
reason, look, it was the recent form. I mean, I don't like betting a player to finish in either a top 5 or a top 10 position here when he hasn't made the cut the previous week. So I'm aware of the course.
The last 2 years at this event, Mark Leishman's finished 32nd and 43rd, where Tony
Okay.
Finau got a second place in last year. So, this is just one of those events where you're always looking at the course history versus the recency trends. I mean, I made a bet on Wyndham Clark. He's one of the worst golfers in the world to finish in the top 20 because he's got 3 top 15 finishes in this event. I mean, he
Okay.
had a withdrawal, because he messed up his scorecard somehow. I don't know how a pro golfer messes up their scorecard, but he had a withdrawal. But that's this kind of event where you're looking at last year and the year before that in this event versus the last 2 weeks.
Interesting. All right. Well, I guess that's we'll have to keep an eye on that one over here. Just touching on Leachman for a second here. But if I actually gave you plus 210 on Leishman to finish in the top 20.
Plus 210 for Leishman. Well, now I mean I'm not sure where he's at. I would have to check to see where he's at right this second.
Let's pretend that we're speaking or we're recording on Thursday night and where we have no information. Round number 2 hasn't started out yet. So
Marc Leishman finished in my overall model. He finished in 33rd place, and Finau was 31st in my overall model. I mean, it would be tough. Maybe if you gave me plus 300, I would definitely place it. 210, that's a little tough for me on Leishman to finish top 20. I'm not saying it's a bad bet. I'm just saying my whole betting philosophy is if I have to question it, I don't do it.
Gotcha. I mean, obviously, I'm always looking for some type of value, so I'll just throw kind of one more at you. But if I gave you plus 700, but I need him in the top 10, is that pipe dreaming?
That's some really great value because he hits the ball straight. He's an accurate hitter, and that's what you need on a course like Riviera. Really tough fairways to hit, really hard greens. Are so hard and so fast that you got to be able to stick your approach shot right on the green. And some of those holes, that short par 4. I mean, everybody's going for it in 1, and that ball just bounces right over the back and into some thick rough and stuff like that. So Leishman's the type of guy that can do well here. So plus 700, yeah, I might take that bet.
All right, that's interesting. Okay. All right, so let me just, you touched on it before here. Just want to spend a little bit more time on it here. Totally aware of, Max's performance last year at Riviera. I believe he's from LA, right?
I believe he is, yes.
I believe so. It's almost like, local guy coming home, doing well at that course here. But I'm also looking at it from perspective of, tied for 14th at the Waste Management last week. Didn't make the cut at the Farmers. Tied for 15th at the Century. A little bit of a flyer. And this thing is kind of just unique to the StatementGames platform. But what do you think of my number 2 pick of Homa not finishing in the top 10? You kind of alluded to it before here. A lot of competition. There's a lot of freaking great golfers out there. Again, and from a StatementGames perspective, one of the things that I'm looking for picks that I think my community are not going to be locked into, because I know that if I hit them at either the 10 or the 9 spot, I'm going to have a distinct competitive advantage of winning the overall contest or ultimately the overall tournament. Right. But overall thoughts on potentially Homa finishing outside the top 10.
Your theory on taking that pick because it gives you an advantage. It's giving you like in the DFS world, you're always looking for leverage. Everybody says play this guy, so you play somebody else right around him that has potentially equal value. It's going to be owned in lesser percentage of lineups. You take that leverage. So I like your leverage play there. But on the flip side of the equation, I love Max Homa this week too, because not only did he win last year here, he finished in 5th place the year before. So if I'm going to keep to my trend that this week is a course history type play, I mean, on my StatementGames thing, obviously Matthew Fitzpatrick withdrew, but I had in my 10th spot because I forgot to go in and make changes to my lineup, or my StatementGame list. My 10th point or my 10-point statement was Max Homa finishing higher than Matthew Fitzpatrick. So that was my first thing I picked, because Max Homa, the odds of winning back-to-back years, it's very tough to do, especially with the talent on tour. But that's how confident I was of him having a really good finish. And I love Matthew Fitzpatrick. In my 23 lineups in DFS, I had Matthew Fitzpatrick about 7 or 8 of them. So I had a lot of editing to do, early Thursday morning when he withdrew. So I loved Matthew Fitzpatrick, but I absolutely loved Max Homa too.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I love leverage plays. I love people that use leverage in any kind of gaming platform. It's a way to differentiate yourself from the competition.
Then it's almost like a complete opposite approach that I'm looking at here. So I was looking at home. Okay, you know what? If I didn't like him in the top 10, what could I potentially get on him to finish in the top 20, which I 100% absolutely love. But it looks like I got to lay $165 to win 100.
Mm-hmm.
Is that too rich, or do you still think that's
for top 20 or for top 10?
Top 20.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
am I overthinking this? Is that easy money?
It's easy money. Yeah, in my mind. I mean, there's no such thing as easy money, because every time I say that, Wyndham Park,
you know what I mean?
Because
but no, if he won the event last year and the year before that he finished in 5th.
Yep.
And I just need him in the top 20 this year.
That's
lay the 165 and 100
on paper. That's easy money. Absolutely.
And he's after round, and that was that was an odd after round 1. So that's not prior to that.
And he's 200.
I'm assuming you can get something like that or similar right now.
Yeah, he's tied for 3rd place right now in the event as we're recording this.
Okay.
So
interesting. All right. Well, let me a couple more things here. So want to spend some time on Max. And you hit the nail on the head on a couple of things that I want to dive into just from a product perspective. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you play a lot of fantasy sports. You bet kind of like a lot here. I really appreciate you being engaged and checking out the StatementGames kind of like a platform and things like that here. In events like this, because obviously, we try and get these tournaments up late Monday morning-ish. Mm-hmm. And from a gaming perspective, we just found out literally within, I'd say, 2 hours of his tee time on Thursday that Fitzpatrick withdrew from the tournament. And, obviously you ran into a situation where you made that pick and you put him kind of high up at that list. From a product perspective, are you okay with having that point kind of like being voided, or would you potentially like to see the system swap Fitzpatrick out automatically with the next best ranked opponent for Homa, and then take your chances that way? You know what I'm saying with that?
Oh, I absolutely do, because this is a hot topic again this week on Twitter, which I'm very active on Twitter with my my personal account. I have my own personal Fairway to Heaven account as well. Is people wanting DraftKings to do that, auto sub out Fitzpatrick, because it's absolutely frustrating when that happens. I think if the withdrawal happens before the event locks, the event locked at, I think it was 9:20 or 9:30 on Thursday morning. If the withdrawal happens at 8:30, it's up to the players to check those lineups and to make those adjustments. But it happened to me twice last year. I'm trying not to say any other companies' names, but in my other, in my DFS lineup, DraftKings twice last year.
Okay.
I had Matt Wolf, and 1 minute after the lineups locked, he wasn't even at the first group's teed off. He hadn't teed off yet. He withdrew before he went to the tee box, and that's there's no way to it. Like, if you do DraftKings football and you have a guy that's potentially injured, and in a
that's the risk that you're taking.
You can, but during the 1 o'clock games, you could still go in and edit your 4 o'clock players.
Correct.
Even though the 1 o'clock games have already started. In golf, you can't do that, and that is frustrating. So I wish there was a way, if he withdrew and his tee time wasn't until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, someone else at the 2 o'clock time frame, you could sub him in. That would be appreciated, but obviously that's a risk you take. You saw that Matthew Fitzpatrick withdrew from the Pro-Am on Tuesday because of some kind of a virus, not COVID related, but he was sick. So you took a chance, and I took a chance, and man, I was scrambling. I got all my Matthew Fitzpatrick lineups changed with less than 4 minutes to spare. So it would be nice to have some kind of option like that. But on the flip side, if the withdrawal happens before the event starts, that's 100% on the player, the player entering the contest, in my opinion.
Interesting. No, that's what I was kind of thinking, because I guess the challenge that we have here is we're trying to match players up from like an odds perspective. So if you got kind of like a Rom going off at minus 120, and just as an example, and Spieth at one kind of like 40, those are the two guys that we kind of pair up. Mm-hmm. I mean, we might kind of take chances and skipping kind of players here and there just to kind of get the more marquee matchups in place here. The point that I'm kind of making here is I'm going to have to go really down the list to actually find a substitute that can fill his spot because he withdrew, and then even the person who in this particular case would have taken Homa is going to have a distinct competitive advantage over somebody else. So it's almost like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
I mean, on a side note, the matchups you picked and the people you paired together this week in the Genesis Invitational one, I mean, you made some super tough decisions for people playing. I mean, so many of these names. I was right on Finau over Leishman, but I mean that's a tough call. Victor Hovland over Cam Smith, two guys I absolutely love on tour this year. That is such a difficult decision. You had Scotty Scheffler and Zalatoris. Scotty won last week. Zalatoris tailor-made. But I mean, you nailed the matchups this week. Absolutely nailed them.
And the way that I was kind of looking, I probably got like a little ambitious and things like that. I mean, heck, I saw freaking 3 hole-in-ones last week, so I kind of played that one here. Anything sticking out on your mind here, or likelihood of? I mean, it's probably kind of not, but it does happen quite frequently, kind of on tour. Thoughts on a potentially seeing another hole-in-one take place at some point during the course of this tournament, with the understanding that, hey, you know what, Thursday is already done.
Yeah, I mean, Genesis is a tough course. I mean, you saw so many hole-in-ones last week because the Phoenix Open. I mean, it's the Happy Gilmore of the PGA Tour. You know what I mean? It's fun. That 16th hole is geared and built to create. I think 2 of the 3 hole-in-ones were on 16 last week. There's a reason, because of the way that hole is built. That it's like that. There are not holes on this course that are tailor-made to have a shot. You got to play a lot of the par 3s on this course very conservatively, because if you just miss by an inch, your ball's rolling off the back end of the green and going into some super thick rough that, down a steep hill or whatever it may be, and it's really tough. So I'm not saying it won't happen, but I would not bet on a hole-in-one happening this week anymore.
Nah, that was that was pretty much all I could have for this week. I appreciate your time. What else you got going for today?
Today I'm right back to the pizza shop in about a half hour, and that's about it. But yeah, I mean,
why don't you just go through the whole location of your store and all that other stuff over here?
Fox's Pizza. It's in Kennett Square. It's a little suburb just south of Philadelphia. Kennett Square is known as the mushroom capital of the world. If you Google it, we drop a giant diamond-studded mushroom from the sky on New Year's Eve. But that's where it is, Fox's Pizza. I've been in business, actually, 2 weeks from now will be my 14th anniversary of being open and in business. I was a lot less gray, my hairline was a lot different, 14 years ago. But yeah, I've been in the pizza business since I was 14 years old. I'm 41 now, so that's been my life. I'm trying to set myself up here with the podcasting and the content creation and stuff like that. So if you're into gambling, golf, or you love golf, I mean, my morning show, I love it. I love my morning show. But if you want to talk golf or listen golf, Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. on DSM Media, our YouTube, Facebook, Twitter pages. I mean, I can't tell you guys enough to come check it out. Myself and my partner on that show, Jason Sullivan. I mean, he's super smart. I'm just a fun guy. I like to have fun. And, we've always got a great collection of guests. I mean, I don't know if you're into wrestling at all or ever were. I mean, we've had Jonathan Coachman now. He's a former wrestling announcer. He's part of the PGA Tour's, online subscription service. We've had him on to come talk PGA Tour. We're trying to get some golfers to come on, but we've had a lot of big name golf commentators come on our show. So check it out. It's a lot of fun Tuesday nights at 9:00.
Yeah, and I'm gonna put all of the DSM Media information in the show notes. So this will get, when it gets uploaded to YouTube, I'll put all your information is there. But before we can close out here, just give people everything you got. DSM Media social media accounts, your personal email accounts. Obviously, you talked about the Fairway to Heaven stuff over here, but just give us the whole kit and the caboodle, ball of wax, of where people can find you.
Absolutely. So I'm Phil Stifle on Twitter at Beard of Knowledge. My Fairway to Heaven page, it's Fairway, the number 2, Heaven _. And DSM Media at DSM _media. We have shows 6 days a week. We have about 14 shows on our network, mostly Philadelphia sports based. But I mean, we do cover all things, especially on my morning show, where I write my agenda for the morning show 8 a.m. before the 8:30 a.m. show starts. I go into ESPN.com. I look at the headlines, just like the name of the show, trending in the AM. I look what the trending topics are nationally and locally in sports, and that's how I write my show every single morning, trending in the AM, 8:30 a.m. Actually, it's getting to the point where it might turn into an hour and a half, 2 hour show
It's
in the
fun.
coming future. Because I mean, when you don't have a core base, you have to talk this week's golf event. That's an hour show. But when you're just going off ESPN and there's so many things happening on a given basis, you can literally go hours talking the trending topic. So that's who I am. That's what I do. And the one thing I'll end with is I like to be known as the guy that will engage every single person. You come on Twitter, you make a comment, you make a statement, you ask me a question, I will engage each and every one of you. It's not like listening to sports talk radio. I don't know how it is in New York, but in Philly, it's if you have a stupid thing to say or they don't agree with you, they call you stupid, they hang up. That's not what I do. I will give everybody their time. I'm even working on how to take phone calls on my shows. I give everybody the time to get their voice heard, their opinion heard, and that's what you get with me.
That's awesome. I mean, we talked about Finau, we talked about Max. Are there any other sneak plays that you're looking to work in, either from a DFS perspective or from a gaming perspective?
Well,
specifically on the Genesis.
Oh, specifically on the Genesis?
Yeah.
I actually looked.
Or in general. I mean,
I got one in general, but on the Genesis, before I hopped on, I was looking at live odds.
Yeah.
And let me just double check to see what he's at now. Adam Scott is at 22 to 1 right now to win. I know he's 7 shots back right now, but he's won this event twice, and there's no way Joakim Niemann is going to continue at the pace he's going. So Adam Scott 22 to 1. I was waiting. I was hoping it goes up to like 23, 24 to 1. So I'm keeping an eye on it. But even at 22 to 1, I think that's a fantastic. Just not don't make a full unit bet on it. Whatever you bet, you want to bet a half a unit, 3/4 of unit on it. I think it's a fantastic value to get a 2-time winner of this event at 22 to 1, who's in 3rd place right now of the event. So that's my Genesis thing right now, and I have already 2 future bets placed. I have a bet on Cam Smith to win the Masters. It's not 31 to 1 anymore, but Cam Smith, just like he's tailor-made for this course, the closest course on tour to this course is Augusta National. I love Cam Smith to win the Masters this year. If you can find him in any sports book above 30 to 1, go and take it. Slam dunk that bet. Just slam it and just take care of it. And on a side note, I've already made one bet on all 4 majors parlayed together that 4 guys were going to win the majors, all first-time winners. I bet Cam Smith to win the Masters, Daniel Berger to win the PGA Championship, Scotty Scheffler, the U.S. Open, and Victor Hovland to win the Open Championship. I bet $1 on it. Pay out $890,000. So follow me on Twitter, because that is what I've been posting nonstop, that I want that $890,000 to 1 bet to hit.
All right, man. That's all we kind of got here. Appreciate it.
Hey, just jumping in here. I apologize for that. I essentially had like a pipe burst in my bathroom ceiling, so that kind of took me out, and not knowing anything about
just
golf.
Be honest, you don't like Phil. You said the hell with him.
On that note, I'm leaving the studio.
If you're bringing this guy on making picks again, I'm going to leave, and that's what